In April of 2018, Harry Anderson passed away. It wasn't expected, but after contracting influenza, Harry suffered multiple strokes and passed away in his sleep at the far too young age of 65. I've been a fan of Harry's since the early 80s. I think my first memory of Harry Anderson was on the late night circuit, particularly Saturday Night Live. He had this crazy hybrid of comedy and magic that at the time, well, it was pretty darn unique, and along with Pee Wee Herman, Mr. Anderson was absolutely my favorite guest to show up on whatever late night show I was watching. He came across as just a little edgy with a whole lot of cool. His SNL appearances led to a recurring role on Cheers as Harry the Hat. I loved Cheers during the Sam and Diane years, less so when Rebecca joined the show, but Anderson's appearances always guaranteed, at least for me, an enjoyable episode of high-quality comedy. So when Night Court rolled around, I was immediately on board. Anderson played Judge Harry T. Stone, the coolest judge you'll ever hope to have to stand before. And if you admitted that you were a fan of Mel Torme, the hardcore type of fan that Judge Stone was himself, well, you might just be able to get off scot-free. The cast on this show was incredible. In particular, I've got to acknowledge the work of John Larroquette. I loved him in last year's short-lived series, Me, Myself, and I, as well as the incredibly talented Markie Post, who joined the show during Season 3, I believe. While the entire cast was great, it was the chemistry between these three characters and the on and off sparks between Judge Stone and Defense Attorney Sullivan. Well, it was just wonderful television, and I, for one, am very glad that Night Court ran for 9 seasons. I also enjoyed Anderson's work in the 2-part television adaptation of Stephen King's It. I know this show has its fans and its detractors, but regardless, most folks acknowledge the really nice work that Anderson delivered portraying the grown-up Richie Tozier. I'm going to go on record as saying I prefer this version of It, even with all its shortcomings, to the more recent movie version. After Night Court ended, Anderson signed up to play the TV version of famed columnist Dave Barry in a show called Dave's World. I've read a number of Barry's books and really tried to get into this show, but for whatever reason, it never really resonated with me. Maybe it was the idea of this edgy and cool guy playing a character who was decidedly less edgy and cool. I don't know. Dave's World had a decent run, 3 or 4 seasons, I believe. After that, Harry could still be found on television from time to time. I enjoyed him playing a character called Fathead on Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman. And how could anyone not enjoy the mini reunion of some of the Night Court actors on 30 Rock? After all, we finally, sorta got to see the wedding of Harry and Christine. Anderson's final role on film was in a Christian-based movie called A Matter of Faith, where he played a biology professor who teaches evolution. What a shock! It's an interesting final role for Anderson. I'm not sure what his personal beliefs were, and I haven't seen the film, but I am quite confident that, like everything else that he had done throughout his career, he put his heart and soul into his interpretation of the character that he played. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned Harry's passing in April of 2018. I think Markie Post's tweet says it all. Like her, we were simply devastated by the news. So that's it. Let's wrap things up with a pic of Harry in happier days standing outside a magic club that he helped start years ago. Were you a fan of Harry Anderson? If so, please share your memories in the comments section. And while you're at it, I'd love a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and I would be absolutely honored if you would consider subscribing to my channel. I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.